Um, let's talk about some of the definitions of narcissism. So Scott Barry Kaufman, who's a humanistic psychologist, came in to mock me on Twitter for my thought that narcissism is not real. And he said, narcissism and healthy self-esteem are very different from each other. All right, number one, when somebody like me makes a tweet like this, where I say narcissism is a junk science idea that comes from people with low self-esteem who want to believe people with strong self-esteem are the defective ones, did you read that as being literally exactly covering everything? When you read a tweet about a big topic, do you think the tweet is intended to be complete? That's not really how tweets work. Tweets are oversimplifications, all right? It's an oversimplification with the purpose of being provocative. And the fact that I oversimplified it intentionally is what causes the provocative part, right? So Scott Barry Kaufman's first comment is just sort of, I don't know, low reading comprehension. If he thinks that the only thing I think is that having a healthy self-esteem is the same as narcissism, because I don't think that. I'll tell you what I do think as we go on here, but no, he's misinterpreting it because he thinks it's a literal, complete statement, which you don't do on Twitter. And then he says, also, I love it when non-scientists dismiss an entire area of study as junk science. Okay then, we'll stop doing the science and just defer to your wisdom because you know everything. So this was what he tweeted back to me while defending that narcissism is a real thing. And I thought to myself, I feel as if one of the symptoms of narcissism is everything in this tweet. Do you notice the first problem? I'm the observer now, right? As the observer, I'm going to look at this statement by Scott Barry Kaufman, a man I've never met, never been in the same room. But as an observer, I observe the symptoms of narcissism clearly in this tweet. So, is he a narcissist? Because I have observed the symptoms? Let's go on. So he thinks, so let's give you the quiz. Let's find out if you are a narcissist. Take the quiz with me. I'll tell you what the symptoms are. Now you keep track of how many of these symptoms you have, and I'll do the same, all right? This is from the Mayo Clinic. It says a narcissistic personality disorder. And some people on Twitter wanted me to know that there's a difference between calling somebody a narcissist on Twitter, which is sort of a general insult, versus the real clinical narcissistic personality disorder. And so some people were willing to agree with me so far as, yeah, we overuse the word, but at the same time we overuse the word, it can be true that there's a legitimate clinical diagnosis, it's a real thing. To which I say, nope, it's not a real thing in the clinic either. Now, I might be right, I might be wrong, but my claim is it doesn't exist in the clinic, doesn't exist in science, doesn't exist anywhere. It's just a completely made up thing that has no use, no function, no nothing. It's just an empty idea. All right, so let's see what the Mayo Clinic says about it. It says narcissistic personality disorder, blah, 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 is a mental condition. What is not a mental condition? So everything your brain does is sort of a mental condition, okay? In which people have an inflated sense of their own importance. Do you see the problem already? People have an inflated sense of their own importance, according to the observer. Do you see it yet? It's an observer problem. If you tell me I have an inflated sense of my own importance, why the fuck are you the one who's right? Why can't I be right? Why isn't my inflated sense of my own importance perfectly accurate? Who are you to tell me that my importance is less than my own belief of my importance. I might be right. I might be wrong. But why are you more right than I am about my importance? Do you see it yet? Now we'll keep going, and you're going to see this observer problem over and over again, right? It says, this is also from the Mayo Clinic, it says that you have a deep need for excessive attention and admiration. Who says it's excessive? You're observing me right now, live streaming to the world in front of two major platforms, because why am I live streaming and you're watching? Well, I'm live streaming and you're watching because I believe that what I'm producing is worthy of being watched. Okay? But if I believe that the thing I'm doing is worthy of, to use the Mayo Clinic's words, it's worthy of attention and, well, I wouldn't say admiration. That's kind of mind reading, isn't it? If somebody said that because I'm doing this, I clearly am chasing attention all the time. I do it in public. Most of what I do is to get attention, and I don't do it I don't do it in any opaque way. I do it transparently. I'm transparently trying to get lots of attention because I like it, because it has a value. It's a value, I think, to you. It would definitely be a value to me. So who gets to tell me that was excessive? Is my need for attention excessive? Well, the observer says so. Maybe. But why is the observer right? Why can't the observer be somewhat of a mind reader in this case? Because what makes it excessive? If it works and it has a function and it's part of a strategy and a plan, it's part of my business model, who says it's excessive? That's an opinion. All right, let's go on. Another sign of a narcissist is that they have troubled relationships. What? Troubled relationships? Can you name anybody who doesn't have troubled relationships? Do you notice what's going on now? Now they're just throwing some BS on the pile because there's nobody who doesn't have troubled relationships. In fact, every mental condition in the world causes troubled relationships. All right, let's go on. How about a lack of empathy for others? Let me measure all of your empathy now. Okay. See, I'm seeing Brian with a Y. I'm looking into your mind now. Yeah, not much empathy in there, Brian. I'm sorry about you. Let me do another one. Havoc, user Havoc. I'm reading your empathy. Oh, you're good. Actually, you have lots of empathy. Now, I'll do somebody else. Okay. Joe, I'm reading your mind now. No, I'm sorry. You don't have not enough empathy in there. You see the problem again? It's an observer problem. How the hell do I know how much empathy you have? Moreover, how many different conditions create a lack of empathy according to other people? All of them. If you're an alcoholic, do you exhibit a lack of empathy for other people? Yes. If you're on the spectrum, do you exhibit a lack of empathy for other people? Yes. If you're a CEO, do you exhibit a lack of empathy for your employees? I hope so, because if you don't, you'd be a bad CEO. You have to do things that are bad to them to run the business, hoping there's a greater good that helps everybody in the long run, as capitalism does. All right. So imagining that you can see someone else's amount of empathy is mind reading, and it's frankly crazy. And I don't know how you could be a professional and think you could determine someone else's degree of empathy or if it's the right amount. That's purely an observer problem. They've compared your empathy to their own, right? That's exactly what happened. They imagined how much empathy they had, and they said, well, that's the normal amount. Then they read your mind, because they can't possibly know how much empathy you have, and they determined, yeah, compared to mine, you don't have enough. So therefore you have a mental disorder. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy that we put up with this kind of bogus science. All right, how about this? That behind these are definition of a narcissist again, if you're just joining me. Behind their mask of extreme confidence lies a fragile self-esteem that's vulnerable to the slightest criticism. So, do you know anybody who is vulnerable to the slightest criticism? There's a category of people that I don't know if you've met any of these, and I don't know if this is actually a psychological designation or what, but there's an entire category of people, and there are a lot of them, who are almost to a person in that group quite vulnerable to the slightest criticism. They're called women. Have you heard of them? They're everywhere. If you go outside, that's pretty much half of everybody in the world is a woman. Have you ever met a woman who is not vulnerable to the slightest criticism? No, you haven't. No, you haven't. You've never met a woman who was invulnerable to criticism, even slight ones. Now, is that because women are weak and can't take criticism? Well, there's another group of people, and there are a lot of them, who are they're kind of sensitive to criticism. They're not women. It's another group. And they don't like it when they get criticized, and it bugs them. Do you know what they're called? Men. Men. Have you ever met a man that liked criticism? I get a lot of it. I don't like it, but I find you get used to it, and then you can just deal with it easily. So I would say that dealing with criticism has more to do with practice. I've simply had more practice dealing with criticism than other people, so it probably bothers me less. Is it because I'm awesome? Is it because I'm the only person here who doesn't have a mental problem? And the rest of you, you're all bothered by criticism more than I am. So, sorry, I'm the only one here who's not a narcissist. All the rest of you clearly meet the definition of being bothered by slight criticism. Wait, who gets to decide what is a slight criticism? Oh, you see it again? Bothered by slight criticisms? Who gets to decide how big the criticism is? The observer. That's right. The observer gets to decide that, oh, that was a slight criticism. Would the observer think the same thing if they had been on the other end of that slight criticism? There's nobody who doesn't get bothered by criticism. It's built into us. Now, I know you're going to say it's a matter of degree, and then I'm going to say, well, that's a matter of opinion. The degree is kind of an opinion. How about this? Let's see. A narcissist, you have problems with your relationships, problems at work, school, and in your financial affairs. Does that describe anybody else? You just described almost everybody I know. There are very few people who don't have problems in their life, problems in their relationships, problems at work, problems at school, problems in their financial affairs. It's pretty much everybody. And it's for all different reasons, right? Every kind of mental problem can cause all these same problems. So let's see what else. And this is also from Mayo Clinic, says people with narcissistic personality disorder may be generally unhappy and disappointed when they're not given the special favors or admiration they believe they deserve. They believe they deserve? How do you know what they believe they deserve? Are you a mind reader? Right? If you asked somebody that you thought was a narcissist who had entered a contest and lost to somebody who was just better at the contest, let's say they hit the target more, do you think the narcissist would say, no, I'm the best one here, I just lose all the contests? I mean, I don't know what that would be, but anyway, so it's all the observer effect. And they may find their relationships unfulfilling. That's like everybody. All right, so here's another list from somebody else. Now, the other problem with this narcissistic stuff is that you can find different lists all over the place. And if you can't even define it with one definition, you know it's made up, right? You know it's not a real thing. If everybody's got a little bit different definition of it, that's a big red flag. So here's some more. They exaggerate their achievements and talents. You're a narcissist, or this is one sign of it, if you exaggerate your achievements and talents. Do you know who else exaggerates their achievements and talents? Everybody with a job. Also, everybody dating, if they're doing it right. Exaggerating your accomplishments is what your coworkers do to get a raise. I exaggerate my accomplishments when I'm in the context of, the corporation and people don't know what my accomplishments are. Now, in my current role, I don't feel necessarily that I need to exaggerate my accomplishments because I do things publicly. So if I accomplish anything, people are going to notice because it's public. But is that a flaw? Whose idea is it that it's a flaw to exaggerate your achievements and talents? Because it feels like to me, like that would more often be good than bad. In other words, you would get a good outcome from exaggerating your achievements and talents. When I decided to become a cartoonist with zero experience in cartooning, was I, even in my own mind, exaggerating my talents? Of course I was, to good effect. I exaggerated in my own mind. I had overconfidence for something I had no experience in and had no reason to believe that I should succeed in it, but it was a really useful fiction. So it's a useful fiction to tell yourself you can do things that you don't know if you can do, but it's useful fiction. So I would say that's a healthy person. Here's some more. They're master manipulators. Says who? Says who? Have you ever been in a bad relationship where you were not called a manipulator? Is that even possible? Has anybody ever been in any kind of a bad relationship, say the end of a marriage or whatever, where you were not accused of, you were accusing each other probably of manipulating each other. So manipulating people is so universal. It's what addicts do. It's what your boss does, your coworkers, your lovers. It's kind of universal. People manipulating each other. So if it's generic and universal, what's it doing in this definition? How about they don't recognize or accept your feelings? How in the world do you know somebody doesn't recognize or accept your feelings? I don't feel like that's even a thing, really. It's mind reading. It's the observer problem. If the observer can't determine that you have accepted their feelings, they say you haven't accepted their feelings, but they can't read your mind. They don't know what you're accepting or not accepting. Who doesn't accept feelings? If you observe somebody has feelings, you're done. I observe you have a feeling. I might not think you should have that feeling, but I don't feel like there's anything here. It's like an empty statement. Everybody, anyway. They are arrogant. If arrogant is one of the things that says you're a narcissist, that would be everyone on Twitter. Because I don't see anybody on Twitter who doesn't act arrogant. Are they all narcissists? Again, it's one of these universal things. If you put me in a certain topic, I might act arrogant because I think I know something about that topic. If you just move me to another topic where I don't know anything and I don't have any instinct about it, I don't think, I don't look arrogant in that case. So really it's just about what context you're in and the observer problem. How about this? They require constant admiration and adoration and need to be the center of attention. Well, that describes me. Doesn't it describe you? How many of you would say, I like admiration? Is there somebody here who doesn't want to be admired? Is there anybody here who doesn't like to be adored? I mean, if you had a preference, if you could choose to be ignored and reviled or admired and adored, shouldn't you pick the admired and adored one? How's that the mental illness? I would think that wanting to be admired and adored is a sign of excellent mental health, but it's literally on the list of mental illness, the thing that I would strive for. Does it hurt you that I'll use the word require, but that's mind reading. I don't require it. I prefer it. Can a psychologist tell me if I require constant admiration and adoration, or do I just prefer it, so I work toward an end in which I've done something good enough for the world, in which the natural outcome of that would be I would get some, people would like me for it or something. What's wrong with that? Shouldn't I want to be that person who's working hard to make something so good in the world that I'll be admired? You want to turn that off? I think you want to turn that up. You don't want to turn that down. Let's have more of that. If everybody in the world were working hard to be admired, I think we'd have a better world. It's not worse. All right, how about this? They take advantage of others. Who doesn't do that? They take advantage of others. It's a matter of degree, right? Everybody lives in a world in which somebody else's actions affect you, and so you want to influence their actions so their actions affect you in the best possible way. Isn't that everybody? That's literally everybody. That's everybody all the time. But if you word it as taking advantage, suddenly it sounds like a mental illness. How about I reword taking advantage of others into you're a social person? It's the same thing. If you live in a social situation and you're a social person, you are taking advantage of others, and they are sometimes taking advantage of you. And when you sum it all up together, it works really well. It's an opinion from the observer that somebody has taken advantage of someone. Now, obviously, if it's abusive, that's something else. They believe they are superior. Do they? Do you think that you could find anybody who has been diagnosed by an actual psychologist, let's say a psychiatrist, let's say the highest level of training, and they diagnose somebody as a narcissist? And then do you think that if I went and talked to that narcissist privately and I said, hey, narcissist, do you believe you are superior to other people? Do you think that narcissist would say, yeah, I do. I do think I'm superior to other people. Now, suppose they did say that. Here's my follow-up question. Well, do you believe that you could play basketball better than an NBA player? What would they say? Would the narcissist say, yeah, as a matter of fact, I've never played basketball, but I could play better than Michael Jordan? Would they? No, they wouldn't. They'd say, I wouldn't be good at basketball for a variety of reasons. I might be good at some other things. But if you said to them, let's hear your singing. Are you the best singer in the world? You're superior to everybody in your singing? Would the narcissist say, yeah, I've never sang, but I'm pretty sure I would be? No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't. There's literally no one on the whole planet who meets this definition and they believe they are superior. There are only people who believe they're good at some things. That's it. There's nobody who believes they're better at everybody at everything. And if they were, narcissism wouldn't be the problem. They would just be flat out, super crazy. And then it gets into weird stuff about where they come up with the reason that you're this narcissist. And this is where it gets really batshit crazy, all right? Here are the official reasons that you might be a narcissist, okay? So it's not fully understood how a person becomes a narcissist. Duh. If it's not fully understood, that's another red flag, all right? But the claim is that they have these common background influences, so that maybe that's not a coincidence. And they say that common influence is usually a parent who gives them excessive pampering or excessive criticism in childhood years. Or they might come from a broken home, etc. To me, that all looks like false correlation because I imagine there are lots of things that are correlated. That's all I see there. or they substituted lack of love and support from a parent by overemphasizing their own worth. None of that sounds real. It doesn't even sound a little bit real. It sounds like stoned people talking. There is so little science in this that is laughable. Now let me summarize it this way. My claim is that narcissism as a diagnosis is a made-up, useless grab bag of a word with no functional purpose. And I'm gonna prove it by doing the same thing, okay? And I'm going to invent a mental illness called Adam's disease. Now I want you to see if you have a bad case of Adam's disease. I'm going to list the symptoms. Now you don't have to have all of the symptoms in order to say you have the disease. If you had, say, 4 out of 5, or even 3 out of 5, you'd probably still be suffering from Adam's mental disease. So see if you have these symptoms. Are you obsessed with showing your knowledge to other people? Are you obsessed with showing your knowledge to other people? For example, at work, if you have some knowledge and it's needed for your business, do you present your knowledge to other people? I'll bet you do. I'll bet you do. If you get in an argument with your spouse or lover and there's a fact that is important to the conversation, do you bring it up? I'll bet you do. I'll bet you're obsessed with facts. Do you know why I say you're obsessed? It's the observer problem. You might say, I use facts because facts are kind of important for thinking. And I do display my knowledge because everybody does. Sure, but I think you're obsessed with it. I think that you have an unhealthy obsession with showing your knowledge. And how do I prove that? Because compared to me, because I define myself as normal, but you look a little obsessed with that showing your knowledge thing. Sure, we do the same thing. I show my knowledge to people, you show your knowledge to people in about the same amount, but I feel like I just do it when it's necessary, but you do it because you're obsessed. You know why? Because I can read your mind. Oh, I'm reading your mind. Yeah, you're obsessed by it. I just do it, but you're obsessed. How about this? Symptom number 2, you don't always sleep well. Is there anybody here who has ever had trouble sleeping? Yeah, that is one good sign of Adam's disease. How about this? Do you often think that you are right and that others are wrong? Has that ever happened to you? Do you ever feel that you're right on a topic and somebody else is wrong? If you do, that doesn't seem healthy to me. That feels like a symptoms of Adam's mental illness. How about this? Do you sometimes think you have skills that other people don't have? Maybe because they've never tried to do those things. Do you think that? Yeah, that's a little sketchy, isn't it? That you think you have some skills, that other people have less of those skills. A little bit arrogant. Yeah, I don't think that's good mental health. Do you ever pursue your self-interest even at the expense of others? Do you? Do you pursue your self-interest at the expense of other people like you don't even care about them? For example, have you ever accepted a promotion at work? Because if you have, I feel like you put yourself above all the other coworkers. Oh, you're so special that you would accept a promotion given to you by your boss. Because why? Because why? You think you're special. If you didn't think you're special, you'd say, hey, boss, maybe other people are more qualified. You know, maybe someone else should have it. Because if you get that promotion, no one else can get it. You are being purely selfish if you get that promotion. Because there's only one. If you get it, somebody else didn't get it. Why do you think you deserve it? You suffer of Adam's mental illness. How about this? Do you accept my feelings or do you not accept my feelings? I don't think you accept my feelings, and I feel that that's a sign of mental illness on your part. Why can't you accept my feelings? I'll give you an example. I feel that you should sell all of your possessions and then take the money that you got from it and give it to me. What? What? I feel like you're attacking me now. Hold on. All I said was you should sell all your possessions, take the money that you get from them and give it all to me. And I don't feel like you're valuing my feelings here. Because I really, really feel strongly about this, and you're acting like that doesn't even matter to you. That's mental illness, isn't it? As the observer, don't I get to say that your reaction to things is inappropriate? Because after all, I'm the psychologist. So I get to decide that your behavior is abnormal and mine is not. So there's my example. You could take any grab bag of symptoms, put a name on it, and say if you have 4 of these 6 symptoms, you've got a mental illness. And most of the world will have 4 of those 6 symptoms as long as you're the one who gets to decide how weird it is. That's it. All right. So, are there people who literally fit the clinical definition of narcissism, and they're so bad that they actually think they're better than other people and literally believe that other people don't matter? I doubt it. I doubt it.